So, Sam?
Gabe?
Philip, you already did.
There we go.
Yay, Philippe!
Yay, Philippe. Cool. Oh, here we go. He's got his beer out already. What's going on?
It's going to be a fun episode.
I don't have a drinking problem.
I definitely don't have a drinking problem. I have a drinking solution. No, I'm kidding.
How everything's been for you guys? How's your week been? I know, Gabe, you've been super busy with stuff. So let's just crack on and see what we've been getting up to. And I'll tell you a little bit what I've done this week. Because something very big has happened for me this week. And something very kind of... A big part of my childhood and growing up has happened. Kind of, off the cuff. So I'll save that to last. But let's find out what you guys have been doing this week. Or...
You can boast in the end.
Yeah, I'll boast at the end.
Yeah, whatever we say will pale in comparison.
Yeah.
I hope not. I hope, you've got some awesome...
No, I'm really happy for you, actually.
Yeah, we'll share with the guys in a moment. I'm genuinely curious as to what you guys have been up to since the last episode. Because obviously I wasn't here for the last episode. So yeah. I was out filming. I was on a gig. I was on a job. So, I'd like to know what you guys have been up to since then.
I had... serious 10-core iMac Pro issues over the last month. Mm-hmm. That's been a nightmare, and long story short, Apple resolved the issue, and I actually upgraded to an 18-core, which arrived 2 days ago. So I spent all of yesterday rebuilding my studio, and with Philippe's help, set up a 10 gigabit Ethernet network between two computers.
Oh, wow.
So next week we'll have some guy come out, drill holes in our wall, and then I'll route my older iMac upstairs so that Elizabeth can work off of my drives. And we actually tested it, and via this 10G network, the older iMac was editing 3 angles of 4K multicam native media with color corrections and composited graphics on top in real time at 2 times speed.
Oh, wow.
That's insane.
That's amazing.
I never expected anywhere near that level. So
that's incredible.
That's impressive. And maybe in a year's time, I would have figured it out. But with Philippe, we figured it out in like an hour. So I'm really grateful for that.
That's awesome. That's really awesome.
Maybe it's worth mentioning that little application that you were installing, and as soon as installed, it crashed the iMac.
Yes. So I had significant crash problems in Final Cut where it started out where I would be exporting out of Final Cut Pro 10 and Motion, and then my trackpad would suddenly stop working, time would stop, and then my whole machine would shut down. And then that kept happening more and more and more. So I took it to Apple, they fixed it, gave it back to me. Then it started happening when I would just move a clip a millimeter in the timeline, then it would crash. So that's when I got the new computer, and everything was fine until I installed iStat Menus, the little menu bar app that tells you your system processes.
Oh, really? Okay.
2 minutes later, whole system shut down. So I immediately uninstalled that app, and so far I've had no problems.
And this has been, 2 days already, right?
2 days, yeah, and I've been working in Final Cut and Motion, and so far, so good.
That's great.
I never had a lemon from Apple before the 10-core, so, that was, it's going to happen.
So it could very well have been the app itself that was causing all those crashes.
Well, I uninstalled it from the previous iMac too. That was definitely a hardware issue. They replaced the motherboard. They broke something else when they replaced it, so that's why it didn't work. Anyway, they did solve the issue. I'm super happy with how it turned out so
that's
far.
Awesome.
So now, Philippe,
you got a good deal out of that, really.
I did. Yeah, they kind of hooked me up as a business customer, so it did cost me more in the end. But
let's be honest. I think you wanted the 18 core to begin with.
Yeah, I think this was your plan all along.
Yes, I was scheming away. Scheming.
Anyway, so you're asking Philippe what he's been up to, and
yeah, what's going on with you, Philippe?
Well, with me, some good stuff. Through a friend of a friend. So basically, if I explain this story properly and correctly, last year I did a 48-hour film project. And for that 48-hour film project, I basically enlisted friends of friends, and most of them were friends of Anna, And one of them was Carolina. She is a musician, and she was the main actress of the short film. We did the short film. It went great. It went on a big screen. We didn't win anything, obviously. But some friends of her really liked the short, and some friends of mine too. And through one of her friends, another friend of hers, so a friend of a friend, was looking for someone to work on some videos for a new startup from Switzerland. Ooh. And well, through that contact, I got recommended. I went into a meeting, and this startup has some very interesting project. They're acting on a type of project that is very close to my core beliefs about overpopulation, food problem in the world, food waste, and things like that. And of course, they're not concentrating on the problem; they concentrate on the solution to that. But basically, I got a contract with them, already signed the NDA, and they are my first really big client. When I say big client, is because they can generate repeated projects. After the first video, I'm pretty sure there will be many others to do, and I'm being able to charge the right price. I didn't need to make any discount to them, so that's very good.
It seems to me that you did win something. Like you won something big.
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
You didn't come away from that.
I'm really happy about this because suddenly I have a 1.5 to 2 minute video that I need to make. It's going to be a lot of work, obviously. It's going to be 4 days of full production, a lot of interviews, a lot of B-rolls, and then later on a lot of editing. But in the end, I really went on the quote and I said, it cost me this amount, I want to make this amount, and here it is how much it cost to you. And they were like, that's fine, that's great. And we really like the way you make your videos. And then I had a meeting with their CEO, the co-founder, and everyone together. I actually got together in this project a friend of mine that works in marketing. We've worked in many projects in the previous company we were working for. And when they were talking about everything about this project to me, I asked them, who is your audience? Like the normal questions you would normally ask, and suddenly they didn't know, and I asked them, do you have a marketing team? And they said, no, we don't. And I'm like, okay, so before anything, let me get you in touch with a marketing person, someone that has worked in this exact field for a very long time. She's really good, you're gonna love her, and etc. Then we had a meeting, they loved her, and immediately we started working together. And suddenly, my partner used to be my customer. So Tina, she used to be my customer, now she is my partner in this project. And we are working together again, and we always liked working with each other. So this is really, really nice. It actually kind of ties back in to all we have been talking in the past about how to talk to clients, communication, soft skills. I can tell you for sure, Tina has worked with better people than me in the past, but probably my soft skills is one of the things that really made her be kind of a partner with me now. And I really like that. And besides that, I have a short film that I will be working in collaboration with a dancer, so I'm quite happy about that too.
That's fantastic.
Now Sam's gonna just...
Well, saying that, actually, it's quite, quite awesome. For me, that's the kind of stuff I want to be, working on. But from a business point of view. But for me, when was it now? What was the date yesterday? It was the 11th of May, yesterday, when it all happened. I was told the previous Tuesday that from a colleague of mine that some people were going to be coming into the office where I work, and they will be doing something very significant for a TV show I'm a big fan of. And so I said, I'll be there Friday, I want to come and help. And I said, can I come and help? And he said, yeah, sure, come along. And so I asked him, do you want me to do anything outside of it? Do you want me to do anything for the project? And he was like, graphics. I know you've done graphics relating to the show before, kind of, from my own personal point of view, from like my own personal projects. And said, could we get maybe some lower thirds, maybe a title sequence or something? I'm like, yep, sure, on it. So I made some graphics. Really, that what I showed you guys, that took me about 3 hours to make.
Really?
That's it. That's impressive.
Whoa.
So,
yeah, that's really impressive. You
the
have
rendering
the 3D
took more
model there
time.
and all.
Yeah. So the model was kind of a thing that I ripped from a video game. So I did that. I retextured it a little bit to match the era that they were coming from, the era they were focusing on, because it's Doctor Who, obviously. So we were focusing on the classic era of Doctor Who, from William Hartnell to Sylvester McCoy. Yeah, so from the 60s till the late 80s. So I had that model in there and did all that within 2.5 hours, maybe. The rendering took more time to kind of, with After Effects and all that.
Same was a lot faster than the rendering, of course.
Exactly. So, I did all the color correction and everything, and it matched the logo that they've got now, the kind of color, the brand guidelines and such. Anyway, he said, it looks great, we just need to get it approved by the BBC. I'm like, shit. I'm bricking myself at this point, because I'm like, well, okay. I've been making these little things on my YouTube channel for years. These little things started off as, I did the first one in Final Cut Pro 7 using stock stuff from the old sequences and building my own little kind of montagey stuff. And then I learned kind of After Effects and do motion graphics. I did another one in motion, things like that. So I've took bits and pieces and I've kind of built up this repertoire of being a tile sequence designer for Doctor Who on YouTube. And so when he said, oh yeah, they're going to have to approve it, I'm like, fucking hell, I'm going to have to, pull out all the stops here. Anyway, and then on the Friday, we had this shoot, because basically, I'll give you a bit of context for the project. There's an event going on the 21st of May. I don't know if this episode is going to go out before then. But it will be a Twitch, the live streaming platform, are partnering with the BBC, and they are previewing, or they're doing like a marathon of every single Doctor Who episode from 1963 to 1989 back to back.
Whoa.
Yeah. So that's 26 years of Doctor Who being broadcast over 2 weeks, and they were filming these little interview sections for each Doctor. And essentially the case was that Mark Turpin, or Turps, the CEO, was in on the interviews, and he had no clue about Doctor Who. He's got nothing, he only watched a bit of the new series, doesn't know anything about the classics. And we spoke to him, and Matt, who was the presenter, did an amazing job of bringing in loads of classic and kind of up-to-date Doctor Who, I suppose you could say, influencers. They know what they're talking about. They know what they're talking about. They had a classic companion come in, Katie Manning, who was with the third Doctor, and she was amazing. She was absolutely, on ball. She, answered loads of awesome questions, covered loads of awesome content, and the idea was that these experts have come in and are going to try and teach the CEO a little bit more about the classic series of Doctor Who and what it was about and what each kind of monster was and what they were for each Doctor. And it was an amazing shoot. It took us all day to do it, but knowing that kind of what I've done graphically and kind of helped work on for Doctor Who is going to go through the BBC official channels, and it's just a bit of a...
That's amazing.
a bit of a childhood kind of ambition of mine to do something for Doctor Who, and I've managed to do it.
Well,
It's
next
kind of
step
like,
is you're gonna do yourself the intro animation for Doctor Who in the next few years. That's
You
it.
never know. Hopefully, maybe. Fingers crossed. We'll see.
That's super exciting. Are you able to share any of the stuff you've shown us on the episode, or do we have to wait?
Well, I might have to wait. It is going to go out live on the 21st of May. That's when it starts. And so stay tuned for Twitch on that. I think it's Twitch Presents Doctor Who, I believe. They haven't confirmed the name yet as of recording this episode. But keep an eye on that, and I'll try and see if I can get some stuff. I have asked Matt, who will be editing it, if we can get some archival, and we shall see. I'll keep you posted. But it's all very exciting. It is very exciting. Awesome stuff. I'm very excited for it. I'm very, schoolboy, fangirl, the whole kind of thing. So it's quite incredible.
I've always seen you as a big girl, so it totally works.
Cheers for that.
Yeah. Yes.
But I mean, it comes to that, it's one of those things that you would least expect, because the company that I work for don't necessarily do this sort of stuff. They were commissioned because of Twitch. you know, they work with Twitch a lot.
It's
more
incredible
than-
how things
Yeah.
pull each other and
It
how
is, yeah,
connected
it's-
they are.
It is amazing, but like, I just it's like count me in. I want to help. I want to do something. And Matt's probably the biggest Doctor Who fan in the office. Next, I'm probably next to him in terms of like what he knows and what I know. And so I was just like, count me in. I want to help. I want to do stuff. So let's do it.
At this point, it doesn't even matter if you were paid a bonus, or if you did it for free. At this point, it kind of doesn't matter, right?
I would have done that for free. I mean, just because I now work for the company that did it, and I'm probably going to get paid for it as well. It doesn't really. It's in my salary. It's like I'm.
Yeah, that's the type of thing that it's like it's a pleasure to make just for the fact of making it, right?
Exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Wow.
The nostalgia aspect of it, though, going right. This show has been in my DNA since
Like Gabe,
over 10
Nine
years.
Inch Nails comes to you and say, "We're going to have a YouTube series going on. Can you make the intro for us?"
I would sell my house and follow him around anywhere he needed to go. Trent Reznor is my favorite artist of all time, so yeah, I would do that in a heartbeat.
Goodness me. But that kind of leads us on to something we wanted to talk about, which is what is getting freelance gigs, because Philippe, that gig you got.
Perfect
it's a
segue.
it is a perfect segue because it is something that we wanted to talk about, and that what you spoke about kind of adheres more to the topic of discussion, because you got that gig because you made something that you wanted to make, and then through a series of contacts you managed to get an amazing job, and then how does that and in terms of getting those on a regular basis,
Well, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I say is it more of a case of just doing what you love and then getting recognised for that? Because a lot of these cases, my stuff that I did for Doctor Who was recognised by Matt and said, "Oh, do one of them for this," and it was like, "Okay, cool." I didn't realise it was going to go towards the BBC, and they had to kind of go, "Yep, that's great, tick it off."
In a way, what you like kind of prepared you the whole time to get to this position, right?
Mm-hmm.
In my case, I would never have thought that anyone would base them wanting to work with me because of the short film that I did. One, the short film, it's a 48-hour film project. For those ones that do not know what it is on a Friday, everyone gets together. There are a lot of teams, a lot of groups. They get together, and the organizers, they get out of a hat a genre, a line of dialogue, a prop, and a character. Now, the line, the character, and the prop is to be used by all movies, by all groups that are doing the 48-hour film project.
Okay.
And the genre is almost unique for each group. If you have like 100 groups, of course, some groups are going to have the same genre. The second thing is, it starts on the Friday night. At the moment that you know your genre, line, prop, and character, you immediately have to start writing, shoot, edit, and deliver. And you have 48 hours to do that. I've done a couple before this third one. So I did 3 in total. And this third one, I already knew everything that I couldn't do. Because on the first one, I learned everything that I should absolutely not do for a short movie. I'm not going to get into details right now, but it was a very good learning experience. On the second one, the first one, I was the main person, I was the organizer, and I was the director. The second one, I was just the editor. So it was actually very good to see how other person is directing and organizing everything. So I learned some things what to do and some things what not to do from that too. And on the third one, I said, okay, I have a pretty good idea. And in between the first and the third, there were almost 4 years. So there was a lot of experience that I gained in 4 years as well. So between the first one, experience, the second, I had a good idea of what I should do in that case. Mm-hmm. And I was working with a lot of people that have never worked in video productions before. Maybe 2 of them had. It was a very small team. I think it was either 6 or 8 people.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the film was shot in my apartment, in a restaurant nearby, and in a park. And It was, first of all, super fun. I told everyone from the production, I do this because it's fun. It's fun to get a lot of people that we don't know together, work together, get from nowhere to have something, have a story, and have a film in the end. So for me, that is the best part about a 48-hour film project. We made a sci-fi movie, and our prop was butter. The line of dialogue I don't remember, but in the end it's like
memorable.
Yeah, the best movie or one of the best movies was one that actually made an animation that the butter was an assassin. So it's a lot of creativity there. Ours wasn't that creative. Ours was more connected to an alien and a cure for a disease that was synthesized into a butter or something like that. But in the end, we had a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. It was a cool-ish movie. As soon as I finish the subtitles, I'm going to send you guys. Because it was Czech. I'm Brazilian. My main language is in English. I live in Czech Republic, and I directed a movie in Czech. So there were a few challenges there.
No kidding.
Yeah, and
a few language barriers.
The movie went to the cinema. Everyone from the team shared in their Facebook and etc. And I never expected that anyone would contact me because I saw your movie and I want to work with you. I would have expected them to say, I saw this client work or that client work and want to work with you, but not that movie. Absolutely not.
Yeah, it's very bizarre what kind of gets noticed in what you do. Like,
and then, of course, with my crew, I was very nice with them. I was never the person that's shouting at anyone. I was very clear. We had pre-production meetings. Like, for example, when I knew who would be working on the group, we went to a pub so everyone could meet and greet. And I said, guys, here's the idea. We're going to do like this, this, and that. Anyone has any questions? And then we were talking, etc. On the day that we got together to actually start the movie, everyone knew what they were supposed to do. Everyone knew what's expected of them. And that really helped. And I think everyone from that group would work with me again. Because every time that I meet them, they say, when is the next short that we're making? When are we working again? And I think that kind of translated into my friend, the friend of the friend, and so on and so forth. And in the end, what I take from this is be nice to every single person that you have contact with. Mm-hmm. You never know who is going to be the person that's going to recommend you to someone else. The dancer that I'm working with now, it's a collaboration project. I'm making no money out of it. It came out of another dancer that I know, but I don't have a very close relationship with her. Mm-hmm. So maybe I was always nice. I don't know.
Well, and I think another important thing is to keep yourself open to taking on jobs that are, whether paid or not, that make you uncomfortable. A few years ago, I was an assistant on a shoot for this bank. And the guy had been doing this for decades, so way more experience than me. But being on that shoot and then coming home and editing some of that footage, I realized he didn't do anything differently than what I was already doing on all my shoots. So in a way, it was a confidence booster because it's like you do what you do and you learn from YouTube, you learn from doing. But seeing somebody with that much experience setting up their lights the same way as you and kind of running the talent the same way and the same general framing, it gives you that confidence to be like, wait a second, why aren't I getting these gigs? The only reason is he's got name recognition. But that's not the only reason.
It's who you know. It's, at the end of the day, sometimes it's like, he might have a best friend who runs, he might have a friend of a friend who runs a company. He goes, oh, right, this guy does videos. Do you want to speak with him? Like, yeah, sure. And then the guy runs like a, $250,000 business or something stupid. It's like, it's like you have to kind of then follow up with that, like 100% of the time. You do have to know what the you're talking about. Otherwise you're going to be there in the dust going, I don't know how to light this scene.
And be nice about it when you know, right?
Exactly. So, I think, and who I think makes up 80% of a lot of returning gigs. Would you guys agree or not agree with that in terms of...
I would 100% agree, I think, from what I had so far.
Yeah.
You have a lot of repeat customers, right?
Yeah, which it's not so much who I know, it's just I I'll do work for a client and they're happy and they mention it to somebody else who becomes my client.
Yeah. But still,
Word of mouth
but still, they know you. It's a case of it's
Word
it's
of
who
mouth.
you know. Word of mouth, and who you know that get you. A
Word
lot
of mouth
work.
is huge because it doesn't cost you a penny to find new clients. It's just if you do good work and the people you did the work for are happy with the experience of working with you, they will refer you.
Here's a very cool example. If you go to a restaurant and there was a cockroach on your soup, you complained about it and they were a about it, how many people are going to talk about that restaurant that you really didn't like and it was an awful experience?
Everybody.
Everybody, right?
Yeah, everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you go to that restaurant and you have an amazing time, how many people are going to tell about it?
Yeah.
2, 3?
Very true. Maybe.
Like
yeah.
maybe the closest friends. So it's
what you're
so
telling me
important.
is I should, drop C stands onto my clients when I'm doing interviews and stuff.
If you
like
don't want
that.
to work, sure.
No. I should make a big deal of making the interview as bad as possible.
The positive reaction or experience that you leave someone with, it's going to have a value of, let's say, 2 or 3. But the negative experience is going to have a value of 9 or 10.
Yeah. Welcome to the internet.
Yeah.
I mean, just look at any thread anywhere and count the number of positive comments versus just negative. Most of the negative, of course, being people who never read the article to begin with.
Yeah. It's unfortunately is how life is today. And
Yeah.
at least that we have to conform.
Well, earlier we mentioned putting yourself in uncomfortable situations, but there is a difference between that and, as Sam hinted at, taking on a job that you're way underqualified for. I mean,
No, that's true. Yeah.
I don't, nobody's going to call me to do the next Ford commercial by myself, because it's way bigger than anything I've done before. I don't have.
But there, you would hire other people, right?
Well, if some reason I got the gig, yes, I would instantly look for people who have experience, that can help me, who can help me. But,
and then suddenly you become the manager, the producer, maybe you're the director as well. But wouldn't you want to get a DP that's way better than you?
oh, of course I would. With way better cameras and better support system and assistance. My point is really just there's a fine line between taking on a job that'll challenge you, push you out of your comfort zone so you can learn new things and try new things, and then versus taking on a job where you just completely fall on your face, it's a disaster, and you lose a client and destroy their project because you're just way underqualified. You got to still be smart
there's a
about your
balance.
decision.
It's a pinpoint, isn't there?
Which is very important for us to recognize that when the client says, I have $1,000 and they want a Ford commercial. And then you have to be honest and say, $1,000 doesn't get you there, no matter how good I am. It's still a job for 10 people instead of 1 or 2.
It's not going to cost you less than the price of a Ford to pay me to do the video,
And then you could even, even if they start bitching about it, you can even say, look, I can show you line by line. I'm not just trying to get rich with one commercial. This costs money. It takes people, it takes equipment, it takes time.
That right there is, in my experience, another good piece of advice, which is you can't always go all in on one project because you think that one project is going to be this huge budget. It's like half your yearly income. I mean, go after big stuff, certainly, but...
They can cancel at any time.
Well, it may only be a one-time client then. Oftentimes, I'm hesitant to give discounts right out of the bat these days because then a client just expects that forever. But if you know or have good reason to believe that it's going to be repeat work, you can cut them a little bit because in the long run, it all adds up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, if you go after everything in the kitchen sink with every project, it's going to scare people away. And a lot of the people who hire me now, they couldn't afford it if I just gouged them every single time. And I do believe that small businesses need videos that are as high quality as large businesses.
Of course,
and I like to kind of be able to deliver that. But they couldn't afford it if I charged the same as
now, let me ask you something.
Competitors with multiple employees.
Let me ask you something. If there is a customer of yours that does X and another customer that does Y, why you're able to charge $20,000 and X you're able to charge only $1,000, either because of the sector that they're in, the size they are, or something like that. One is 20,000 and one is 1,000. Are you gonna give any less quality of work to the one that's 1,000?
Well, it's kind of tricky to answer. I mean,
you might use different cameras. You might have less people, but you yourself, the amount that you put in yourself into the work.
No, I wouldn't give any less. But
I think there's some.
It's tricky.
Yeah, it's tricky. Tricky is a grey area because for the $20,000 client or £20,000 client, whatever particular currency you want to use,
£20,000 would be a little bit better than $20,000.
Yeah, I suppose it would be. Yeah, but for me, in that instance, I would hire people that would be able to take off some of the workload.
Yeah.
For 1,000, I'm on my own. I can't hire a runner. I can't hire a thing, which means I'll need more time to do stuff. I need more time in the edit, or I need more time on set to make sure I've got everything I need. I can't do a 1-day shoot with just me. I need either maybe a 2 or 3 day shoot because to make sure I get everything I need. Especially if it's interview stuff, I need to make sure that lighting setup, 20 minutes, half an hour setup time for interviews. And then it's the interviews, and then it'll be, if we're lucky, a lunch break. And then, same again for the next day. It takes time, this stuff does. But if I had the opportunity to hire people, maybe another 2 people, like runners, I could say, right, set that up. I'm getting camera. I'm going to
not saying that is the same project, like
exactly.
the amount of time or something, but it's just the amount that they're paying.
The scope, I think, changes. Like, what you can comfortably achieve within that limitation changes drastically. And saying that, obviously I'm going to deliver the same quality of work, but it's going to take a lot more time because I don't have other hands to help me if I need them, or I only have 2 hands and 5 fingers on each hand, or well, 4 fingers and 2 thumbs if you want to be that specific. But like I want to put as much effort as I can into doing what I want to do, but there are limitations on how far I can do that with the budget and the scope and such.
And it's not just, it doesn't all come down to just our capacity. I mean, it's not like I have a spreadsheet that says, if you're this size of business, you're going to get this much cheaper rate than this size business. It's not that simple. It's related to what that project is worth to the client who's offering the budget.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, when I do work for a marketing company, they offer their hourly rate is much higher than what I normally charge my hourly rate. Obviously, I'm going to accept that. And most of the time, the work is much easier too. But it's their clients are huge. So their clients don't bat an eyelash at it. So if that's what if they're proposing the budget, I will do that and I will do my best work for you. But for another client, it might, they don't have as much resources to offer. And the project isn't worth as much to them because they're not a huge company with a lot of reach.
It's a tipping scale. Yeah, exactly.
The reason why I asked that is because there are variables. On everything there are variables, right?
Yeah,
like let's say that business X, which is the one with the lower budget, was a flower shop. And they definitely, there is the season that there are flowers coming from Netherlands and they want to sell more and they need to put a video out. But they can't afford that much because their overhead with the flowers is not that high anyway. And the other one with 20,000, maybe like, let's say it's Ford. And of course, like Sam said, everything, people, time, and etc. But the thing is, the reason why I asked that is because maybe the guy from the flower shop is the best friend of the guy from Ford. The marketing guy from Ford. And that was my learning experience from my short film.
Understood. Yeah.
I don't know what are the contacts from all the people that worked with me, and there were just very few, just 8 people. I don't know. Maybe it just takes a friend of theirs to say, oh, I saw this guy on a short, and it was a friend of a friend, and it gets to them, and then they get to me. You never know who they are, and then that can land you a gig, You never know when you share with us something and we share with someone else.
Because what if you did a video for somebody for 2,000 and they have a friend you also did a video for and you charged 8,000? If they start talking, it's like, well, why did I pay so much more? It's a tricky thing. I'm not seeking to to take advantage of anyone.
No, of course.
Fundamentally, I still feel like I'm cheaper than, even with my rates having been raised a few times over the last handful of years.
But then again,
I'm still
yeah.
cheaper than a lot of my competitors, and I don't feel like the quality is any less. So,
I think it then comes back down to what you say is like, what does it mean to them?
Yeah.
You know, if they are envisioning drone shots, if they're envisioning crane shots, if they're envisioning 4K red stuff, if the client has this picture in mind that go, we really want this to look, as a phrase in the UK, the dog's bollocks. We want it to look fantastic, right? They're gonna be a lot more open to paying more because they want to give as much to you as possible to make it what it can be. Whereas somebody at the flower shop might go, my budget is only, $1,000, $1,500. We're looking for a really small video to kind of just show people what it's like around the shop, what our process is, show some of the staff off. That's about it really, just to go on Facebook or something. The scope's massively different. The bigger client might want to go, well, this is going on broadcast for TV. Our budget includes this. It's like, you're going to charge them more for that because the rate of failure is higher. Because if you get something wrong, it's going to bite you more than
The
it's going to bite them.
consequence is higher, yeah.
Exactly. So, whereas with the flower shop, it's, you can afford to cut a little bit in terms of not so much quality, but what you can.
And in a way, it's an
do.
investment too, right? I mean,
Exactly. So
yeah.
it's it comes down to A, scope of work, and B, contingency and consequences in terms of what's going to happen if I get this wrong. The contingency of me messing up a format on this drive is a lot higher. So therefore, I'm going to buy 2 RAIDs, which are $1,000 each, to make sure we have everything. Because I don't want to be the guy that accidentally deletes a clip on this one and I lose it on whatever. So that consequence is much greater for higher client stuff than it is for smaller client stuff. Not to say it's not important, but at the end of the day, it's your neck on the line for both. But I think you're going to be a lot more aware of it for the higher costing client than you are for the smaller costing client. So does that make sense? Am I kind of I feel like I'm making sense.
absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, now on the other end of the spectrum, how do you feel about free work or work that is offered absurdly low? There are a lot of gigs now I see, like on Craigslist and other areas that I would have jumped at 5-6 years ago, and now I just click off immediately.
Because it's like Fiverr. Like Fiverr's like another place I'm not exactly a thing of, because it's like $5 for a logo, and I'm like, it's like
no.
People are charging. That's might be okay if you want to have work for that, but there's people out there that are doing fantastic work and getting people coming up to them going, well, this guy can do it on Fiverr, why can't you do it for the same price? I'm like, well, there's a college degree there, there's a university degree there, there's all the money I've spent on kind of software, this, and this. So there is that.
Send your cost of doing business to them and say,
exactly,
that's why
so
I can't do it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I usually make a list or something about it and say, this is why I can't do it for this price. Or I'm not a fan of doing it for this price. If you want to go to them for that, but I'm not going to lower my work just so I can appease.
I see ads now still for full day corporate shoot, bring your own camera, bring your own lights, professional audio, same day edit, $200.
Oh no, that's ridiculous.
I know people who will shoot for that, and that's crazy low to me. They're hurting themselves.
I think if you were desperate,
if you're desperate, or if you're brand new and you just need a project to be able to put on your portfolio to maybe drum up more work, I could see that. Yeah.
That works. I think. Sorry, go on. You say, Philip, whilst I'm thinking of my little point, and I'll.
Well, personally, don't ask me to work for free. I will work for free if I offer. Let's say the dancer that came to me and she has a project. I actually really liked her project, and I know how is a dancer's life. I know how is an artist's life. They make nothing. And
it's like the Doctor Who thing again. It comes back to that. Like it's a passion for me.
Yeah, but her idea was so good that I can see it if I do my job well, I can apply it to a film festival and go to a film festival with that short film.
Yeah.
So when she asked me how much is it gonna cost me, and I told her, I want to share the expenses with you. So if I need to rent an equipment, you pay half and I pay half.
How was she with that? How did she respond to that? Was she very
She was so happy about it. She was so happy because, first of all, she got to me recommended by another person. She looked at my website and she probably looked at some of my work.
Mm-hmm.
And when I met her, she was talking. She said, "Oh, I met so many other people that do video, but they couldn't understand what I wanted to do. Every time that I was explaining them my idea, they couldn't visualize anything." And I said, "I see the whole thing in my head right now." And then I, with my own words, I explained to her what it is that I saw, and she was so happy about it. Mm-hmm. Of course, this is not going to happen with everyone in every project. My girlfriend is a musician, and she struggles with exactly the same things. Like, other musicians are charging nothing. Considering they went to conservatory, they have been studying for 10, 15 years. It takes a lot of effort to learn new music, to be good at it, to practice. You take hours practicing out of your day to go to a gig for an hour or two, and they're charging nothing. And I told her, you don't do that. As soon as you start doing that, you're driving the whole industry down.
Yes.
So it's not worth.
No, it's not.
Exactly. Yeah.
Every month I see a new video production company pop up in my area. They don't tend to last very long, but it's like there are more and more people producing video now. But if they all are just competing for the lowest common denominator of pricing, the whole industry is just going to fall apart. And all that'll be left is Hollywood and broadcast that most people won't be able to afford.
Or want to be in.
Or, yeah, exactly. So
they probably started charging a lot of money just out of the gate.
Yeah,
exactly.
When I started out, I was one of the cheapest for sure, and that was the only way I could get gigs. But it didn't take too long before I realized I can charge more and get bigger gigs. I can charge more, and even the people I had before will pay the higher prices because they're happy with my work. Like, everywhere I've read any type of advice about, when you're just starting out, don't compete on price alone. That's a horrible business model.
Yeah. Which is interesting when you're giving a quote to not say $200. You say $1,000, $800 of discount. So they know that the actual price is $1,000, not $200. You're giving them a discount, and then you explain, look, you have that discount because I believe that we are going to build a relationship. Mm-hmm. We're going to do more videos together, and etc. Just so you know, maybe not the second, but maybe from the third on, just so you know, this is the value. It's not that I'm increasing my price, is I'm giving you a huge discount right now, and you should know how much that discount is right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Just an example. I'm not saying that to go from 1,000 to 200 at all.
No. That's a huge discount. Like, it's crazy.
80% discount. Yeah, no.
Yeah, no.
Well, and a lot of that comes back to, as we've talked about in the previous episodes, is setting your terms. Last year, I did a series of videos for a client for way less than I normally would. I was afraid it would be a bad year, so I just grabbed onto it. It wasn't a bad year, and what I ended up doing was putting more work into these videos than I did for any other client because they just kept asking for change after change after change. So if you're going to discount, you really need to set those terms straight, or you're going to get raped. Even if you're just starting out, you don't want to be working forever on revision hell.
And that's kind of like maybe, if you are starting out, kind of what are the other practicalities you should be understanding? Like, because we talked about production a lot and getting clients, finding the pre-side of things. Okay, we get a client, we've talked them through our terms, we've talked them through that, we've done the shoot, we've done it for about $4,000 or whatever. There's a thing that kind of, like, what do we use now to cut that project on? What's going to be the do we use Final Cut, Premiere, Avid? Avid. Do we use, what's the tool that we use to get the most out of that? Is the one thing for everything, or is it just a case of, Final Cut is going to be a lot faster for this project because I know they want a quick turnaround, or I want to use a lot of After Effects, so I might use Premiere for this project, or I might, what tool do you use to kind of justify the the way of telling it, if that makes sense. So like,
Well, that's a somewhat complicated issue because, I mean, all three of us are huge Final Cut Pro 10 users. For reasons we could
obvious
just
reasons.
talk about for hours and hours
Oh yeah,
and
of course
hours.
we could.
But Final Cut isn't necessarily the best NLE for everyone who's just starting out. I mean, it really depends on what type of work they're seeking. I mean,
I
if
think
you're
we
going to
should
go to
clarify-
Hollywood,
Yeah,
if
I think we should
if you're
clarify that it's good for all kinds of projects, but it depends on the person using it. Like, 'cause I know some people out there are going to say like, I know, so some people are going to come back and say, Final Cut's not great for music videos or not great for narrative because of the Minetti timeline or whatever.
well, that's
They're gonna
garbage.
Exactly, they're going to throw an excuse out there, whereas it really depends upon the person that is operating the tool. It's like I don't know how to use a forklift truck. Doesn't mean I won't learn if I need to learn it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So like, it depends on the tool in order to do the job. So Final Cut can do a lot of what people want, what people are asking for.
Well, it's been demonstrated over and over again that you can use Final Cut Pro 10 or Premiere Pro or Avid. Those are the kind of the three big ones. DaVinci Resolve hasn't really seen a huge adoption rate yet, but we'll throw it in there because I think it will.
I think it's a good
You can
tool.
use it's an amazing tool for
Yeah.
for a track-based editor. But so we'll just focus on those four. We'll kind of leave Vegas out for now because I only know one person currently who's using that. But
Same
you
here.
can use any of those tools for any level of production, from a feature film all the way down to a birthday party.
Exactly.
They're
yeah.
all capable tools. But if you are wanting to get a job as an editor in broadcast or Hollywood, and that's your only goal, the fact is right now Avid is kind of
It's still the king. Yeah.
It's still the king. I mean, it's foolish to not recognize that. I would recommend you learn Avid, at least along with whatever other NLE you're learning. It would be bad advice, I think, to not tell them to learn that if that's what they're going to do. Now,
exactly.
that doesn't mean if you say use Premiere or Final Cut that you can't still make it and use it to cut feature films.
Yeah,
It's just you would be the oddball, and in a way you're kind of swimming upstream currently.
Yeah.
It's just that system's very closed. It's very Avid, locked down for myriad reasons.
Yeah.
But again, I don't want to give bad advice and say just because we all love Final Cut is the only one you should learn.
Well, on the side of that though, like there was there's a guy who was recently published on fcp.co that from the NAB Faster Together presentations that said he uses Final Cut Pro 10
Joe.
as a side companion
Joe.
for Avid. Is it Joe?
Yes.
I think his name's Joe. Yeah,
The one
Yes.
from House of Cards?
I believe yes, the guy that cut House of Cards. He uses Final Cut as a side companion with Avid. So if you're going to do stuff like that, where you're using Avid and using Final Cut to quickly find stuff and to log stuff and to get information, because
$300 plugin for Avid.
exactly. Well, to be fair, it's probably the when you kind of add everything up that Avid might need or potentially would need, it kind of does cover a lot of bases. And the fact that you can actually kind of get a lot of good information from Final Cut for Excel files. Yeah, sorry,
XL.
I was going to say XML, but the Excel files through Producer's Best Friend and things like that, you really can turn an NLE into a database tracking system, which is kind of what it is, essentially. The bare bones Final Cut is a database. And it's a fantastic companion to anything you're doing outside of keeping track of VFX notes, edit changes, things like that. So it's a fantastic tool to use alongside with the companion. So I think if you are going to learn an NLE, learn Final Cut along with every other one that you're doing.
Well, I would add another thing too. Like, have you seen the video from Mike Metzdorf at the Ripple training, showing him bringing, Gabe likes to put the camera, the lens, focal length, and things like that on, as a metadata. He showed a way that you can put as a metadata that's baked in, that metadata that you can't change into Final Cut. And that for me was like a huge surprise, and I would encourage anyone to watch that video. It's really good. He was showing how do you transfer some metadata that you have on Avid into Final Cut and vice versa.
Yeah.
And that was amazing.
So as a tool, from a tool perspective, Final Cut's fantastic because of that reason.
And very
But I
flexible.
think if you are working in broadcast, it's Avid, as you say, Gabe.
Yeah.
a lot of, again, it's kind of, Premiere is one of those things where,
Well, Peter
I don't
Wiggins would disagree probably.
yeah, I don't know, like, honestly, I don't think Premiere, for me personally, I don't see an advantage to Premiere except After Effects.
Well, Premiere is a really solid tool with a lot of functionality.
solid-
I just don't like the way it works. I don't like the experience of using it. And that's
the same, yeah.
purely it's mostly a personal preference. Now, before I started my company, I worked for another company, and I had been at that point trained on Final Cut Pro 7, and 10 had come out, so I was getting familiar with 10. But they were all PC, all Premiere based. So I had to teach myself PCs, which I'd never used before, and Premiere, which was also new to me, basically overnight. But that's what they hired me for. So while, of course, once I got to know them, I talked endlessly about how much better Final Cut was, which I'm sure was annoying. Don't care.
You fanboy.
It was my job to cut in Premiere and to cut efficiently in Premiere. So I kept training and training and training until I knew it like the back of my hand. And I got to be really fast at it. I didn't enjoy it. As soon as I left the company, I was back full-time to Final Cut. But again, if you're, so forget broadcast or Hollywood, if you're just looking to work at a company in your area, if you're working, on their premises, don't be stubborn. Learn whatever tools they have there.
Oh yeah, of course.
If it's Premiere, use Premiere. If it's Final Cut, great. But you can still use what you want on your own. But like, just because you love a tool and just because you can build a solid case that it's the best for everything, you still have to fulfill the functions of your job.
And then it depends on how old you are too, right? If you're 62 and you've been working on, I'm not gonna say Avid. I'm gonna say if you're 62 and you've been working with Final Cut Pro 10 the past 10 years almost, no, 7 years, 8 years. No, it's almost 10 years, right? It's 9 years right now. No, 2011. Man, I don't know how to count. 7 years.
7 years. Okay. 7 years.
If you're 62 and you've been working with Final Cut Pro 10 for 7 years, and then someone says, well, we're gonna work on Premiere. You can weigh your options like, do I really need it? Do I really want it? And then if you really need it, yeah, go and learn Premiere or Avid. Do you really want it? And then you say, maybe not, which is what a lot of people from Premiere and Avid do, right? They have capacity, they have mental capacity to learn something new.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. If comes out a new smartphone that suddenly, like Google was showing, Google I.O., that you can say, oh, book me a hairdresser between 10 and 12. And then Google Assistant is going to call the hairdresser, pretend to be a human, and book you a slot at the hairdresser. I mean, it was easy for you to learn that. Some will say, well, but that's easy. Well, I could say it's easy to learn that you don't need tracks either. I mean,
yes. Well, and there's something to be said. So we've talked about different reasons why one might pursue one NLE over another based on the job they're going after. But I think it's been shown over and over again that if you've been editing for a long time, which would be a track-based editor, learning Final Cut 10 can be a lot more difficult than if you are just starting out. People who are just starting out across the board take to Final Cut 10
what was
much
your question?
quicker. Well, that's not a question, it's a statement. I'm saying...
No, I mean, you said what NLE should you learn, right? So maybe you're taking people that don't know any NLE yet.
If you've never edited in your life, just 2 weeks ago I was training somebody who barely knew how to even right-click on a mouse. So their computer skills were minimal. And after 4 hours, she was starting to cut in Final Cut.
You have one of the best examples ever.
Yeah, and granted, I spent the whole first day without even opening Final Cut. I'm just talking about basic media management, which is a whole nother episode.
In of itself, yeah.
Because I don't really,
which we will cover.
I don't want to be handed a project, Final Cut or Premiere or otherwise, if the foundation of it is just a disaster. But that's that's a separate thing. But within so basically within 2 hours she was cutting in Final Cut, and people have shown this all over the place. So if you're brand new to it, it's also the cheapest. If you don't count Resolve, which is free.
True, true.
But
what about what comes on an iPhone? You can get iMovie for free.
iMovie is a good way to start.
It is. But the thing is, the language there is the same language as Final Cut Pro 10.
It is,
yes.
Yeah.
how many kids are today getting assignments in school that instead of writing a whole essay, they're saying, make a video about it?
Well, I think that's exactly what Apple had in mind.
Like
I mean, they
this.
knew that.
Like this, not like this.
Please, like this.
Sorry, there's a PSA. Sorry.
Okay.
I'm gonna hold on. I'm gonna throw up. I'll be right back.
For those listening to the
Vertical
podcast,
video.
now,
Because
we
my TV at home is actually like this.
well, the thing is, that, like, for people that are listening to the podcast, we just talked about vertical video again, because obviously they're not going to see us flipping the camera because we are on iTunes now.
A friend of mine was like, "Take care of your own life." When I was talking about vertical video, I made videos of his birthday. I plan on delivering a vertical video to him in which he doesn't appear on the video because he's just on the side of the video.
Goodness
Nice.
me. Goodness me. But yeah, in terms of NLEs, like you were going off on a bit of a. What was you saying, Gabe? If you can remember.
How do we break this down? If you're just starting out and you've never edited before, and I think Apple was hip to this, they realized that more people have iMovie than any other NLE out there. So if people are already using that, how do you then jump from that to a more professional platform, which would be Final Cut Pro 10? As you both mentioned, that's such an easy transition from one to the other.
Yeah, it's an easy kind of next step rather than just an actual steep learning curve. It's just a natural kind of
It's like adding features, right? I mean, I needed to work with 2 tracks of audio on iMovie, but iMovie didn't offer me that option. You go to Final Cut and suddenly you can add infinite audio effects or whatever, right?
Yeah, and on the flip side, iMovie has a couple things that Final Cut doesn't. That would be really nice to have.
White balance took a long time to come.
That took
Oh,
a
yeah,
long
it
time
did.
to come. Don't they have
Ducking?
don't they have opacity fade handles right on the clips?
Yeah.
And they have audio
Ducking?
ducking, where
Yeah.
you can automatically duck
You have
audio.
audio ducking, I think, on iMovie on the iPhone, if I'm not mistaken.
Doesn't it come through an XML though? If you send your project through, don't
I think
the
so.
audio ducking keyframes automatically get added?
I think, actually, I'm not sure if it's through XML, but Final Cut right now has the ability of importing an iMovie project from the iPhone into, or from the computer into Final Cut. So whatever it is that you've done that, so if there was ducking, there would be the faders there.
But for me, kind of like, in terms of learning an NLE, if you haven't learned anything so far, I reckon iMovie is the jump pad for me. Like if you get to go to iMovie, you can learn to you can compress to Final Cut. If you're on PC, I would actually say Resolve would be a good thing to learn, simply because it's free. It's free. You can edit up to 4K video, up to 4K 30p video in the free version, I think, something like that.
Yep.
It's a great learning tool.
Takes advantage of
fantastic-
whatever hardware you have.
Exactly. So that's a great learning tool as well. If you want to maybe do more motion graphics work with your projects, look into getting Premiere with After Effects as well. It's a shame though, because I always say
I don't
Even
know about that.
DaVinci has Fusion now.
that's true, Fusion, but
Well, After Effects
Isn't that a
aside,
separate-
I mean, I use After Effects a fair amount, and I don't ever open Premiere because I
That's
don't want
true.
to contaminate my computer.
yeah, that's the thing. Is
So-
like that's true. Like I don't like I always feel bad saying no. If you're going to use After Effects, you might as well use Premiere, because I've always it's bad for me to say that, because I always then reduce Premiere to just a companion app. When now for me it should be the other way around. Premiere should be a good tool to use After Effects with it. But I'm always promoting After Effects, and you go, you might as well use Premiere as well.
Well,
Because
there's a
that's
lot
how
of
bad
good.
it's got for me.
The integration between Premiere and After Effects is good in theory, and granted, it
Oh,
it
yeah.
has improved slightly since the last time I used it. But I mean, dynamic link, again, in theory, that's cool, and we used to have that with Final Cut and Motion, and that's gone now. And I do miss that to a point. Although with Motion templates, we kind of have that and better. And now finally, Premiere sort of has Motion templates that aren't as good as what the Final Cut and Motion implementation is at present. And I don't know if you've ever tried to render a dynamically linked After Effects project in a Premiere timeline, but it's nuts. It's
yeah.
horrible.
It's so slow.
Again, in theory, these things are great, and they might work. That's kind of a very system-dependent thing. What might
Yeah.
work great on somebody with a super high-end PC might work different than for somebody on a Mac, and I can't.
Or someone on an iMac Pro 18 core.
All the way
Yeah,
back
well,
around. Back around to
even-
the beginning, folks.
Even with this 18 core, I can't get Premiere to launch in under 3 minutes. So
It doesn't really matter, does it?
no. But
I could edit a small video. I'd say a client project by the time it takes Premiere to launch.
Gabe
completely.
doing a tutorial online. I have an iMac Pro 18 core. Hold on, let me click on Premiere. Okay,
I'd
let
love
me go
to-
for a coffee.
Do you know what? I actually would
Yeah.
love to see like a video of you trying to use Premiere and not get frustrated with it. Like a funny video, like a funny 2-minute video, just to slip into a segment here. You trying to edit one of these in Premiere and see how it goes. And I
Sorry,
can tell
Gabe,
you,
we're cutting you off. Say what you
We're
were
not-
saying.
it's all part of it. But I do want to say that for all three of us, we have very clear, objective, time-tested reasons why we prefer Final Cut.
Yeah.
And nothing is going to sway me from wanting to continue using Final Cut as long as it's available and it remains to be supported.
Every time I have doubts about Final Cut, and I have had doubts about Final Cut in the past,
You
No.
use anything else.
and I go
Get
back
off
to Premiere,
my show.
and I go back to this is in the past, it's like 2-3 years ago, and I go back to Premiere, and I go, "Ugh, what am I talking about? And then I go back to Final Cut and just
Okay.
carry on.
Yes,
Where
case
did you
of-
make your animation for Doctor Who?
I made in After Effects simply because of Element 3D. That's the only
Sure.
reason why. Because
Yeah.
Element 3D, that was all done instead of Element 3D, which is a third-party
Okay.
plugin that's only supported in After Effects.
I know
If I
that.
could do it in Motion, I would.
M Object and M Object 2.
I'm waiting for version 2
Yeah,
to
yeah.
come out before I make the switch. That's the only reason why I'm still using
So
After
this is
Effects
for
and Element 3D.
Simon in Poland.
Yeah.
Where
Hurry
is
up.
M Object 2?
Hurry up! Yeah, so that's the only real reason why I am kind of still using After Effects. Because a lot of the motion graphics stuff I do is in Motion now.
Well, same
A lot
here,
of the
but
tiles-
I think the point is there are different reasons to use different tools, and that's true
Yeah.
in production as well as in post.
100%. Yeah, of course.
I right now am completely Final Cut 10 for post. I've looked into Resolve because I really like the UI. I like a lot about how it functions and how it works.
But tracks.
I brought in
Yeah.
a couple of clips, and as soon as I realized this is not a magnetic timeline, I was like, I can't go back to that right now. That said, again, you said earlier, if Nine Inch Nails hired me to do a bunch of projects and they said I have to use Premiere, I will use Premiere.
Yeah.
That's you know what I mean, and I won't
Yeah.
complain about it publicly.
Publicly.
Until the next
Not on
show
this
comes
show.
out.
On the next show.
The other day I got a project, and the project came to be as Premiere and After Effects. And then I came to you guys and like, who of you has an After Effects still? And Gabe was like, I still have it. I'm like, okay, I might send you the project and ask for your help. And then I got the project in the beginning of my day, and I was like, makes no sense for me to go to Gabe and wait 7 hours until he's awake for me to do this and ask him to change some text, right? So I went to Adobe, I signed up for After Effects, I opened the project. When I opened the project and I opened After Effects, there was pre-comp and some other stuff around it. I was like, oh my God, what's happening here?
Headaches.
You know what? I probably spent about an hour or two on After Effects. And a lot of people are going to say, oh, if you knew After Effects, it would be less time. Maybe, yes. But to be
Just trying to
honest,
figure out how it was built.
yes.
Yeah.
And then in the end, I said, you know what? On my own, not charging the customer, I will take 1 hour. If in 1 hour I can create 90% of this animation, I will finish it in Motion. So I got in Motion, I opened Motion, created a new project. In the very first group that is there, I imported the video, the sample, and I started creating my motion on top of it. Step by step, layer by layer, group by group, actually, I created animation, and literally within 1 hour, I was almost done with everything. timing of everything.
I've done that many times where I've started a project in After Effects and gone, it's just too slow. The rendering's not doing what I want it to do. The project's just not working.
Yeah, my luck is that I could get a refund within 14 days of After Effects. So within 1 day, I canceled.
You could have just got the
I
trial.
got a refund.
You could have just got the trial. Made a new email and just got the trial.
Yeah, I could, but I don't know. But in the end, I was like, wow, this had so many complicated things in it. And I'm not a motion graphics person. And if I would concentrate on one single object and object by object or word by word or whatever, do the animations with behaviors. And granted, I didn't go into keyframes and did very beautiful curves or anything like that. I used behaviors because I could see that things had like an ease in and an ease out, even if they would have been made with keyframes on After Effects. In the end, it translated as an ease in and ease out on a behavior, on a move behavior, on motion. And I spent an hour of my own time. But in the end, do you know what happened? The customer made version over version, changing the title and changing a couple of things. And I published enough parameters on my motion templates that on Final Cut I was like, okay, the background is a different color, no problem, different color. There was a video that was a ProRes 4x4, and they said, oh, we need this a little bit slower. And I actually had published a retiming parameter there. I was like, okay, a little bit slower, put the slider there in. I never had to leave Final Cut, and that cost me an hour and a half altogether to put that template together.
See, that's what's saving you time, because it's just whatever can save you time in the edit and save you time overall.
Even if it would have been a slider on After Effects, it would have been the slider and then waiting for how long time until it exports and then I import again. And
well, devil's advocate here. So I've been using Motion for a long time, and I was struggling with After Effects for years. Thomas, the guest on our last episode, would laugh because he had to constantly hear me bitching and complaining for years with my frustration, trying to figure out kind of how After Effects thinks. But finally I got over that hump and I realized, wait a second, After Effects is just objectively better at some things than Motion.
Oh yeah, I'm not taking that away from it.
I still use Motion most of the time. But there are just some things After Effects excels at. And if you want to get really deep with compositing,
Roto, right?
There's not even a question. After Effects is going to be your go-to tool. And so if you are wanting to learn motion graphics versus, say, just being an editor, I would say definitely use both. You have to learn After Effects. If you're an Apple user, I highly recommend Motion because not everything requires super high-end compositing. Most of what I do, and I'll do anything from a lower third to a full-fledged character animation all in Motion. And oftentimes, Motion will get you the same quality, the same result, like 20 times faster.
Yeah.
So, and for $50,
in broadcast, they're not going to use After Effects. They have their own computer graphics engine. I'm trying to remember the name.
Avid Symphony, isn't it? Something silly like that? Or
there are some. If you're doing live broadcast, there is another.
Oh yeah, they're using like.
I'm trying to remember because I was working with that, and when I was trying to create animation on it, and the logic was completely scrambled. I was like, I looked at my boss and was like, can I create a video with transparency and just export here and then you import it? And he was like, yeah, sure. But that like what CNN uses, Sport TV or ESPN uses is
it's a live mixing desk thing.
It is. It is a live one.
Yeah, I do know what it's called. I think it's like I can't remember actually for the life of me. But I'll have a little look now and I'll see if I can find the name of it. But overall, I think for motion graphics wise, After Effects for me still has holds a place in my heart simply because of the Element 3D side of things. You know, the 3D compositing that I can do instead of that really easily. And Object is a fantastic alternative. That can be in Motion, and I'm probably going to buy that when version 2 comes out and use that instead of Motion. But I think for text and motion graphics packages and transitions and effects where you need to have repeated stylized things for like shows. Like for this one, for example, everything was done in motion. Motion's great for it. But if you need specific motion graphics for compositing aspects and for visual effects, then I think After Effects is more of a tool for that.
Mm-hmm.
Remember the one.
Yeah.
Expression from ROS. Because a lot of broadcasters, they use ROS equipment, and ROS has a CG engine called Expression. So, for example, if someone would be planning on doing computer graphics for broadcast, Expression, and there is a very demanding market for expression artists out there. So if you're an expression artist, you can make a lot of money out of it, because there aren't many. Like I'm pretty sure that 98% of our audience has never heard of expression before, and it's CNN and a bunch of broadcasters, they use expression as a CG engine, and it's completely different to create something there. You can create 3D studios. So if you have a studio all in green screen, you create the 3D studio there. It maps to the cameras, and nowadays there are cameras that really map position in Z space, X and Y. It's really cool. So it wouldn't be After Effects, it wouldn't be motion, it would be expression. It really depends on which sector you are, right? Now, if you own your own business, then I reflect that question back to you guys.
Yes.
If you own your own business, you're a one-man band, and you have limited amount of time and cash, where do you invest? Do you invest on After Effects or motion? Final Cut or Premiere?
Yeah, and I think we can wrap this up with that, in that what software you use is going to depend on the nature of your business. If you're doing your own thing, like for me, I almost never have to deliver the project files, but that is a consideration. But the fact that I don't means I can just use Final Cut, I can use Motion, I can use After Effects, I could use Premiere, I could use whatever I wanted, and it's irrelevant because all my client is getting most of the time is just an exported video. And they don't ask what I'm using, they don't care what I'm using. Most of my clients wouldn't know the difference. If I say Final Cut Pro 10, they don't even know what that means. Now, if you're running your own business and you partner with other businesses that do need the project files, that's where you have to consider, well, if they're only getting Premiere projects, should I invest in Premiere? Because if I don't, I can't help that client, and therefore they can't pay me. So that is an important decision to make. If you want to get a job working for a specific company, try to find out what tools they use. And you can get hired at a company with no experience with those tools, as long as you are intelligent and dedicated to learning that tool, because I did it. So there are different reasons to use different tools. I think by far the cheapest, if you're in the Apple platform, is to use Final Cut Pro 10 and Motion. Throw in compressor altogether, you're $400. I spend more than that in 1 year of like a Adobe Cloud subscription, and I barely even use the tools. So it's not just the yearly cost; it's the multiple yearly costs. I mean, I spent $400 in this Pro Apps Suite 7 years ago.
If you're a student, you can spend even less than that.
You get them all, I think, for $200,
including Logic and Live Stage.
Yep. Yeah. So that's a no-brainer for me. So yeah, there are different reasons to use different tools. There's no right or wrong answer. The best answer is Final Cut Pro 10. and
I'm not going to disagree there.
But I wouldn't look down on anybody for using Premiere or Avid. Any Avid or Premiere editor would roll their eyes at me for saying that, but that's the truth. We prefer Final Cut, and we have good reasons for kind of pushing the Final Cut agenda, but it is at the same time sort of tongue-in-cheek, because there are valid reasons to use all the tools, and all the tools are valid. Just as I said, I think in episode 1, these tools aren't professional. We're professional. So use whatever you have to use. If a guy or a lady comes to my house to build a wall, I do not care what. I don't care what hammer they use.
What hammer you're using.
I was going to say the hammer isn't going to build your house. I am. It's essentially the case.
And why should it be any difference in our business, right?
Exactly.
It doesn't. So. It shouldn't matter. Unless you're Netflix with a very specific list of cameras. But
very true.
Yeah, and our
That's it.
cameras, these GH5s are like one step away from being accepted by Netflix. It seems.
I know. I think they are. I think they are being accepted.
I think they are.
Oh, that's crazy. That's insane.
Yeah,
Netflix.
I think
are you
it's-
watching?
I think it's because I thought it was because of the 410-bit.
I think it's the 400.
I mean,
yeah.
I don't know if the internal they accept, but if you use an external recorder, for sure they accept.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
We'll see.
Well,
Really
hopefully, if Netflix is watching, we are all in focus this time. Sam, are you using a manual lens this time?
I am.
So we're all three. Each of us are using manual focus, which is really difficult because my lens is like 6
Yeah.
feet away from me. I have to stand up, guess if I'm in focus, But
Yeah, I've got one of these puppies here that might help me. And if it doesn't kill me whilst I open it from the bag.
yeah, the first time I
'Cause-
opened one of those, it was a large one. I almost broke my nose.
These things are great for finding focus. Recommend one. But yeah, no, I think that was a awesome little discussion we had, covering a lot of different topics there.
Yeah, and
Awesome.
we haven't gotten very many comments on YouTube or Facebook, just because our audience is small still. But we do want to hear from you, guys and
Yeah.
girls, whether you're starting out or brand new. If you're a Premiere user and think we're too Final Cut on heavy, I want to hear from you.
Yeah.
That'll be a fun conversation. Again, it's all sort of, we do genuinely prefer Final Cut, but all
Yeah.
the tools have a valid place. I mean
We're
that
not
seriously.
we're not here to say every Premiere editor is wrong, but you are.
No, no, yeah, you're not.
For them.
You're not wrong. You're just irrelevant. So
We're joking, of course,
Not
of course.
really.
But I mean, like, we're on iTunes now. It's another big thing. We are on iTunes. Our first episodes are on iTunes. If you listen to them on iTunes already, thank you very much. Please subscribe if you haven't.
5-star rating, please. We don't have any
yes,
ratings
please
there
do.
right now,
Yeah,
so
yeah. We'll throw some up. We'll get some people to vote and
Mhm.
rate the podcast. That'd be fantastic. But I'm really enjoying this. I mean, it's episode 3. You know, how are you guys finding so far from your perspectives? Kind of, are you enjoying it? Like, you you guys enjoying what we're talking about? I think I am. I very much am enjoying what we're talking about. So, do you think, what do you think, Gabe? Is this kind of going in the direction you wanted it to go in?
more or less, I originally envisioned it with a bit more anger, and well,
way
just
too nice.
a safe space to vent, and I envisioned it with more short segments peppered throughout. But after the first episode went out, and it got to the point where it's like, this just has to go out, the response we got from that, and then likewise for episode 2, I didn't really see the need to change the formula. And I feel like we've already created a space where we can talk candidly about problems with clients or software gear or whatever, without necessarily regretting it. So we can air our grievances without it being a
Yeah.
negative show. I
Exactly.
think,
Yeah, it doesn't feel like
if we're not
it doesn't feel like
offering
we're just moaning.
solutions, then we're not really doing our jobs. The point isn't to have somebody watch the episode and then feel defeated or bad about themselves or bad about what software they use or what tools they use. So yeah, overall I think it's more or less what I envisioned. And of course, bringing you two on, it's going to move in another direction, which I'm open to, because I don't want to.
Well, as the
I
show
don't want to
progresses,
stifle your input.
Exactly. As the show progresses, we are going to experiment a lot with the format, experiment a lot with kind of you adding bits in. Getting feedback from you guys is important for us because it helps us develop the show. Subscribing and liking the video shows us that you like and want to see more of us. So if you can do that, that'd be fantastic. And I think that's a wrap on episode 3. And we're going to more than likely see you in the next episode. So is there any closing things you guys want to finalize with?
Final cut.
Final cut. There we go.
All right.
See you guys next time. See you later. Bye-bye.